Alright, back at it. Let's see if we can't finish this thing tonight. So I'm going to attach the 2 casters to this block. Okay, I've got the casters on this side, block to this side. Now I'm just going to repeat what I did on the other side there and screw this on. Well, I've got a couple of screws in already to keep in position. I've got all of these clearance holes drilled through the sheet metal, and so now I've got to drill into the block in the back. The other thing I did is after I drilled the initial clearance hole, there's a lot of burr on the back. So to deburr it, I just use a slightly larger drill bit, and instead of drilling all the way through, I just run it briefly on the back side, and it knocks off all of those chips from the burr. And then once I get this mounted with a couple of screws, that'll keep it steady, so that now I can just center my drill bit and drill these holes. But to set the depth of the drill bit, what I do is I grab one of my screws I'm going to use, and I basically put it right up against the bit, and that gives me an idea of how deep I need the hole to be minimum. And I can also take into account the thickness of the sheet metal, but that's not very thick, so I'm pretty much drilling the hole almost the full length of the screw. Now I've got a nut driver, a socket the right size here on a nut driver handle, but what I found is that rather than getting a socket adapter that will chuck in here and then allow me to use this socket, I actually found that the chuck actually holds the screw tight enough. So I'm actually using this as a screw gun because I'm too lazy to run out to my truck where my cordless drill is. Oh, that, and of course I got to find that little adapter, which I know I have one somewhere. It's a little adapter that's got a hex shape to it, so it'll chuck up nicely in the drill, and then the other side is a square drive 1/4 inch. But since this is a variable speed drill, I can actually just do this. And then I can finish snugging it up with my hand nut driver. Alright, so now got my casters on there. Liking that. Now it's time to fix this lifting mechanism. And in order to do that, I've got to get these 2 little brackets that are all bent the heck off of here so I can straighten them out. So it looks like we just got a cotter pin and a little rusty pin. Well, as I started to pull the pin out, the way it cocked, I could tell there was a lot of pressure on it. And sure enough, as soon as I pulled the pin out, this spring shot this assembly right off towards me. And I think the way this works is it's part of the lift mechanism, but it's also, I think, part of the safety mechanism. I think that the way this works is that bow tie looking thing right there is I think that's a fusible link. I think what's supposed to happen is if you get a fire, that's supposed to melt and cause this to release and shut the lid to extinguish a fire. I think. I could be wrong on that, but I noticed that most of these cleaners have what they call a fusible link for safety, which has got to have something to do with closing the lid. Anyways, that pin's really rusty. We'll clean that up. But the matter at hand is going to be to straighten these back out, and I think that's going to be a good job for a vise with good square jaws. So I don't want to use my regular bench vise here because that doesn't really have the squareness that I want. This is one of the 2 vices I saved from the scrapyard that were on the Brown & Sharp milling machine. I was allowed to keep them for my trouble. So what I like about these vices, the other ones actually even more precise, but it's heavy and it's not. I don't have it stored in the basement right now. This one actually seems a little messed up. It binds a little bit on part of the Acme thread here somewhere. Actually, just freed up now. Oh, I'm not going to worry about that. What I like about it is it's got these nice wider jaws, and it's got a nice 90-degree angle that gets formed there, so I can stick these brackets in here, and with a little bit of tapping and squeezing I can straighten these out pretty well. So I'll give you kind of a before. That's really see, that's really messed up. Got a twist in it and everything else. So I got one of the two sides pretty flattened out and stuck that in down in the jaws, and now if I can see that I got a tap on this side, so if I get this side to come down I should be able to get this thing pretty close to 90 degrees. And there's the after. Pretty good. Not perfect, but that'll work. Here's the other one that's bent. So we'll give that the same treatment. I got a conundrum. I've got to compress this spring to get this piece back into position to get that pin back in, and that is one strong spring. But I'm noticing the spring appears to be either attached to, or yeah, it seems to be attached to this rod right in there. So it looks like if I pulled this pin out, I'd be able to slide this up, put this all back together on this end, use this to help me compress it, and slide this pin back in. Alright, set up the tripod so you can watch me attempt this train wreck. So I'm going to pull this remnants of this other rusty cotter pin. Alright, that pin's shorter. Alright, so now with that pin out, I can slide. I should take this completely off. Put this pin in. Oddly enough, there was no washer on this side, but there were two washers on the other side. I bet you this has never been apart, but I'm thinking they just put it together wrong at the factory. It's going to make sense to me that there would be a washer on each side. Yeah, you know, I'm going to give that a quick whiz on the grinding wheel, clean it up. Times like this, I wish I had a pin vise. Pin vise looks like a little, it's like a little miniature drill chuck with a little handle on it. And when you put this in the chuck part, tighten it down, gives you something to hold on to while you're working on something like that. Because, and hold it with pliers, can't tell you how many times it's gotten snagged and I've sent a pin like that flying across the shop. And on a good day you find it. Anyway, you're thinking the same thing. I wish I had another cotter pin. Oh, this one still bends without breaking. Oh, what did I just did? Did anybody else notice what I just did? I forgot to put the other bracket on. See just how much fatigue this cotter pin can take. Ah, that's it, just broke. Alright. I'm forced to get another cotter pin after all. Or, in the absence of a cotter pin, in fact, tell you right now, I'm not going to have any cotter pins that size. Okay, hold on. I'm going to take a quick look and see if I can... Oh, I say quick look. I'll be back in 3 hours after I discover I have no cotter pins. Well, as I suspected, all of the cotter pins that I have are way too big, and I looked all over for a substitute. I found some finished nails, but the smallest ones I have are 4D hot dip galvanized, and even they won't fit through that tiny hole. Found a little hardware, miscellaneous hardware thing. I found a little spring. This is a spring that probably was like off of a small tiny door on a cassette deck or something, and that's actually pretty thin. Problem is I only have one of those anyways. I was about to give up, and then I realized I think I can fabricate something. There's a plastic clothespin. You see the spring? The size of the metal that's on there looks just about right. So let's see what we can do. Yeah, it's the perfect diameter. So I'm just going to cut these 2 legs off of this spring and make myself 2 little clips to substitute the cotter pins. Alright, let's give this a try. So what I'm going to do here is just put this little piece of wire, metal, from the clothes hanger in there. Use my small pliers here to give it a twist, and then I'll just squeeze it right around, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you stay super frugal. Alright.